For the Republic by Wanderer 101, Chapter 8. The Citadel, Zakara Ward. Saren Arterius scowled as he made his patrol through one of Saccharn's ward's lower level. He was once regarded by many to be the next Turian Spectre, but now he was considered lucky to have landed his position in CSEC. Ever since Decilus's trial for his explosive first contact with the humans, the name Arturius has been all but blacklisted. The hierarchy took a big hit to its reputation after the Relay 314 incident, or Vietnamese conflict as some Turians had taken to calling it. To save face, they had a big short trial calling Decilis a disgrace to the Turian people and all the hierarchy stands for. The look of hurt and betrayal on his brother's face is one he'll never forget. Thankfully, he wasn't executed, though. That's what it seemed like they were building up to. Decilis was instead dishonorably discharged and subject to paramount house arrest. Rounding a corner, Saren came across one of the few friends he had in CSEC, a young Turian by the name of Garrus Vakarian. "So, Saren, how has your day been going so far?" he asked jovially. "Nothing much. Had to chase down three pickpockets, deal with a Solarian hacker stealing credits, and got biotically thrown by an Asari all before lunch. What about you?" "The usual: shootout with drug dealers, shootout with gang members, shootout with mercs, get yelled at by Executor Palin, and help get a baby variant out of tree." Saren chuckled. "You're sleeping, Garrus. You usually get shot at a lot more than that." "I don't know. The day is still young. Again, a Krogan might stir up some trouble later on. Still, that's light compared to what you usually get up to. Anything else happen?" "There was some slight trouble with a Korean on the upper level." "Thief?" "Now, Saren, one thing you learn in CSEC is how untrue that stereotype of a Korean being thieves is. Only the die-hard bigots still believe it after their first year." "Sorry," Saren mumbled. "Don't worry about it. It's what we were raised to believe. What happens is that there was a robbery in one of the nicer shops a few levels above here. The Batarian made off with a few thousand credits worth of goods. As he was making a run for it, he turned to his nearby Korean and said, 'Boss, what are you waiting for? Run!' Seeing where this was going, Saren said, 'Please tell me they didn't.'" "Yep." The Batarian's pursuers immediately, without any hesitation, stopped chasing him and tackled the Korean instead. Of all the idiotic... Syrian didn't exactly have high opinions of Koreans, but even he wouldn't fall for such an obvious trick, as if a Batarian would consider a Korean their superior. That's what I thought when I heard it. By the time I got there, the crowd was about ready to lynch her. Thankfully, another passing officer revealed this is becoming a rising fad among petty thieves: run off with some stuff and implicate the nearest Korean as an accomplice to get rid of some of the heat. After that, the crowd sheepishly left after that without as much as an apology. "Sounds bad." "Yeah, well, at least we'll be getting help in a few weeks." "Oh, yeah, the humans are transferring some of the best officers from their respective nations." Garrus replied, watching Saren closely. After a moment of silence, Sarah sighed and said, "We could use the help. CSEC is getting a bit short-staffed." "Yes, it is," he replied with approval. Undisclosed location: Eclipse Merc Base. Spectre Jondam Bao ducked behind a crate with his SMG cooled down. These Eclipse were a bit more heavily entrenched than he thought. They needed to be given what they were up to. These mercs were hiring pirate groups to raid human shipping on the promise the spoils will be divided up between them, with a significantly larger portion going to the Eclipse for organizing the whole thing and providing occasional support. Humans were still new, so anything coming out of their space was worth a lot, be it technology or a culture item. Jundam took aim at another Eclipse Loki mech and fired a short burst, watching as the mech's head became a mess of twisted metal and sparking wires. And Asari approached on his left, an assault rifle in hand and biotechs ready. He overwhelmed her biotic barrier and killed her with a much larger burst, though this had the negative effect of requiring his weapon to cool down again. Grunting in frustration, John Donne was beginning to see why some mercs and even a few of his fellow specters were starting carrying at least one human firearm. At least you can just reload when you run out with those. John Donne saw an Eclipse carrying something large in their hands. It looked like damn grenade launcher. The blast threw him on his back. His vision was blurry and his hearing was filled with nothing but a constant ringing. He barely registered the boot stepping on the hand still holding his gun. Soon his hearing recovered enough he could make out voices and call the boss. We just bagged a Spectre. The council is going to pay a small fortune for him. Quit being stupid. The council isn't gonna pay no ransom, and especially not for a Spectre. Plausible deniability and all that. Then what good is he to us then? John Donne felt the gun being pressed to his forehead. This was how it was gonna end. Killed by some mercs that got lucky. Not the highlight of his career. Suddenly his already abused hearing was assaulted by a new sound. Several loud bangings in quick succession. He quickly worked them out to be gunshots from a human weapon. Hey, are you alright? Looking up, he could see a lone human soldier, Republic Ranger, judging from the armor with his hand stretched. Taking the hand, the Ranger helped back up to his feet. Spectre, right? The Ranger asked. Yes, Spectre John Bow. Mercs got the better of me with that grenade launcher. I certainly picked one hell of a day to go without a helmet. And you are? Anderson Ranger Captain David Anderson. Sol System Earth, United Republic of States, Delta State, Aperture Science. The Wanderer felt a bit out of his element. Here he was surrounded by the rich, influential of council space, and even a few from the terminal system. Aperture Science was hosting a bit of a get-together to try and get new investors. Not that he'd need an excuse to come to Aperture. Unlike Black Mesa, Aperture has always been a family company, and the Johnsons are a very unforgettable family. They're always a treat to hang around, not like these people around him. When you've lived for as long as he has, you can see a kiss ass from a mile away, and most of the people here look like they've got a degree in brown nosing. He's only been here 10 minutes and he's already had to turn down corporate CEOs looking to sign exclusive contracts, political hopefuls trying to become famous for being friends with the Wanderer, and over a dozen Asari of varying ages trying to increase their standing by entering a relationship with one of the human leaders. He thinks the rumor that offering between an Asari and one of the human leaders might lead to immortal children might be the source of the sudden explosion of interest. Thankfully, Aperture CEO finally entered. Cave Johnson III, as he was often told, looked very much like his namesake. The Wanderer, who knew him personally, thought the resemblance was scary at times, and if he didn't witness the various Johnson growing up himself, he might think Aperture was simply cloning their founder and his wife/assistant over and over. He certainly wouldn't put it past them. Lord knows the number of downright insane ideas he's had to shoot down over the years. At least they aren't at the level of that possible resonance cascade Black Mesa could have caused over a century ago. He shot himself hoarse that day. Looks like he is about to speak. He had to hear this. Welcome, everyone, welcome, Cave said, giving them his best smile. I'm Cave Johnson III, CEO of Aperture Science and all its subsidiaries. In short, I own the place. I know what you're all thinking. Why should I invest in this man's company? I could stand here all day and bore you while I give a detailed answer to this question, but a better use of your time is to give you a tour of our facilities so you can answer it yourself. So without further ado, let's get a move on. Cave then led the group down a long corridor with one side lined with windows. This hallway was built above some of Aperture's main test chambers, the ones that contained Aperture's most important and least dangerous experiments. Cave gestured to an empty test chamber. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a test chamber, 4 walls, a ceiling, and a floor. Good enough for science, but not Aperture Science, Cave said dramatically as the walls of the room began to ripple. May I present to you the panel, the planks of tomorrow. Aperture Science panels are fully configurable and infinitely variable. The panels allow us to configure our test chambers in any form we choose. There were a few hums of approval, but both Cave and the Wanderer could see the crowd's shocks weren't exactly knocked off. Cave wasn't worried. This little tour was purposely designed to increase awe those participating with each experiment they witnessed. By the end of it, they'll practically be giving him money. This next one is something already in use by the Republic military. As you can see, this test chamber goes up quite a ways, over 700 feet to be precise. Up at the top, one of our interns will jump down. Let's see if he makes it. Everyone stares intensely at the test chamber, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man, wondering how he was going to survive the fall. The intern soon came into view, lightly landing on his feet like he only jumped from a small ledge and not a 700-foot drop. I give you the latest and inertial dampening technology. The lab boys call them long fall boots. The Republic military used a heavier version in their power armor suits, allowing soldiers to leap from any height. This got a much better reaction from the potential investors. Seeing he was getting them interested, Cave showed them to the next experiment. From energy weapons to advanced robotics, their excitement grew. By the end of the tour, 80% of the investors were showing a willingness to invest. It was a time for Cave to use Aperture's magnum opus. The group reached the end of the hallway, a blank wall, to which Cave feigned surprise. It appears we neglected to put a door here. Don't worry, we'll just make one. Everyone sans Cave and the Wanderer gasped as an orange hole suddenly appeared on the wall. Through it, everyone could see the room in which they originally were before this tour started. The Wanderer smiled as those around him tried to process this new sight. The path they took was in a complete straight line, so they can't say they looped around. This, everyone, said Cave, is the portal. Long ago, we managed to figure out how to open a hole in space that allows instantaneous travel from one area to another, guaranteed to revolutionize transportation. Our development of the hyperdrive actually stemmed from our research into portal technology. I'm sorry, everyone, but that's all the time I have for now. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask my assistant Greg over there. One by one, the investors passed through the portal, very much impressed. Soon the only one left in the hall were Cave and the Wanderer. Not gonna tell them that you can only make portals within this building due to the massive power requirements? The Wanderer asked. What? They don't know won't hurt them. Besides, we're making great strides. We might be able to publicly implement this in a few decades, Cave replied. I guess this isn't just a social call. I want to know if you made any progress with our special project. The Wanderer replied, You have impeccable timing. We just made a breakthrough. Cave then pressed the button on his watch. Reroute portal to test chamber X13. The portal's destination soon changed to a test chamber containing a scale model of an Artemis Eagle-class corvette. Cave nodded to one of the scientists who pressed the button on his data pad. The Eagle then immediately disappeared. We could make ships invisible to any kind of sensor before, said Cave. Now we can do it on the visual spectrum. What next? The Wanderer grinned. Project Normandy is a go. Miss Grant Fleet, MFS Rhea, Conclave Conference Chambers. This is an outrage. It is a betrayal to everything the Quarian people stand for to even consider accepting the proposal. Shala Ran momentarily wished to have something alcoholic to drink as her opponent went on with his rant. The United Republic's offer of an alliance had split the fleet in two. There were those who saw this alliance as submitting to an alien power, and one that used AI no less. Regardless to say, they were wholeheartedly against the idea. Then there was her group who saw this as once in a life opportunity. The Republic was able to beat back the Turian hierarchy all on its own, and though its use of AI was concerning, it wasn't worth tossing out the Republic's proposal. The treaty was fair, if not outright generous. It was heavily slanted in the Quarians' favor, almost suspiciously so. The migrant fleet gets to freely enter Republic space and use Republic shipyards for maintaining the fleet. The Republic will protect the fleet from attack. The topper is that the Republic will also negotiate on the Quarian behalf in the Council, giving the Quarian a voice in galactic politics, again, however meager. The only thing was technical assistance in understanding Mass Effect-based technology. There was also a suggestion that Quarian pilgrims could join the Republic military, and at the end of their term, service will be paid in anything from ships, resources, and possibly technology. Shala and her superiors could see the advantage this alliance will bring. Thankfully, her group was bigger. Surkesh, STG headquarters. The director of the STG opened a bottle of anti-migraine medication. Taking a few pills, he wondered how things could go so terribly wrong. Ever since peace was made with the humans, the STG have been trying to establish a foothold in their territory. In the minor human powers like Florence or Sydney, there were little to no problems. The larger nations are where they start to have issue. The humans spied on each other constantly, so they had more than a little experience in anti-espionage. The agents sent to Rome territory are currently laying low, with the Frumentary close to catching them. The biggest barrier they ended up running headfirst into was the United Republic. They heard rumors the Republic's great firewall made all attempts of espionage on their nation utterly useless. It was assumed that this was simply just the propaganda. Just hours ago, this was proven to be the complete and utter truth, as hard as it was for him to grasp. All of the probes they sent into public space were intercepted and destroyed. A new state-of-the-art stealth vessel that could mask its heat emissions was disabled and boarded by Republic forces within hours of entering their space. Agents that they had spent weeks meticulously crafting backgrounds for were apprehended at the spaceport. What happened next still shocked him. The agents and stealth ship crew were then taken to the nearest military base and executed without trial. The method of execution was hanging, apparently. Primitive but understandable. A nation as old as the Republic was bound some archaic laws, so it was to be expected. At least they aren't as bad as the Asari. The crime of rape was still punishable by public stoning in Asari space. Still, the execution seemed a bit extreme in his opinion. Typically, when an STG agent was captured, they were ransomed back for a large fee in exchange for keeping quiet. The capture and execution of their agents reminded the galaxy in the worst possible way that the STG spied on people. Though they weren't members of the Citadel, the humans were still allies, and many in the galaxy saw this attempt at espionage liable to sabotage that alliance. The Silurian Union has been put on the spot, and someone would have to take the blame. Naturally, the Delatresses tried to make him their sacrifice, but he didn't get this position by sheer luck. After a few discreet extranet messages and some planted evidence of several prominent deleteresses that ordered the operation took a big hit to their careers, while some less powerful ones gained influence. Now that his job was secure, it was time to see if the Republic's great fireball could be replicated. It certainly demonstrated its usefulness, and a system like that would make the SDG a force to be reckoned with. Cultural Cyclopedia, name Guns of the Barbarians, type literature, year 1992, nation of origin United Republic of States, plot an alternate history science fiction novel written by Harry Turtleduff. During the Barbarian Purge, a barbarian tribe are met by a strange woman. She looks like them but speaks in a strange accent and doesn't act in the manner befitting a woman. She and her group claim to be from a tribe far away and have brought weapons that will allow themselves to push back the invading Republicans, a strange weapon called an AK-47. And basically a group of modern barbarians built a time machine and traveled back in time to when the Republic was trying to colonize the island that will become Delta State with the intention of setting themselves up like kings. Name Fallout. Type video game series. Year 1995. Nation of origin United Republic of States. Plot. In the year 2000, the nations of Earth don't agree to cooperate with each other and instead continue to violently compete. This all comes to a close in the year 2077 when dwindling resources provoke a global thermonuclear war which destroys human civilization. Famous quote, war. War never changes. And I'll go into detail about various games in the series later. Name 300, type film, year 2003, nation of origin Holy Empire of Rome. Plot historically faithful retelling of the Roman barbarian purge when the Romans expelled the last barbarians from their home continent. 300 Roman legionaries led by Emperor Caesar himself fend off an army of over 10,000 barbarians. Historians praised the film for its dedication for historical accuracy, which was owed to Emperor Caesar, taking direct part in its production. Characters in the film were all people he knew from the battle. Famous quote, 300 legionaries against 10,000 barbarians. They are hopelessly outnumbered. Caesar. And historically accurate 300. Some creative liberties were taken, but none that Caesar thought would be disrespectful for those that fought and died in the battle. Name Red Star, type comic series, year 1949. Nation of origin United Socialist State of Russia. Plot Vladimir Volkov was your average Russian teenager until after being exposed to radiation on a field trip to a science lab gives him superpowers. Donning a mask and proclaiming himself Red Star, he fights crime in the name of truth, justice, and the socialist way. To put it simply, Red Star is like a combination of Superman and Spider-Man. He can fly, use super strength, and can shoot yellow beams out of his palm. He's a good kid, but also cocky and tends to taunt his enemies. End of Chapter 8.